The script says listen to a song or something. Okay. Hi, I'm jammiegrantham. We're on to another month of the year 2024, and I have been doing an extraordinarily bad job of keeping track of what I listen to each month. So in addition to my August listens, I'll also be touching on my July listens as well. Instead of ranking them from least to best, I'll just say my piece and then leave a little number score at the end, because who doesn't just love a little number score? Anyways, let's start off with what I wrote down as the first thing I listened to in the month of July, and that is...
Time to hit you with a form gado rhythm, let it roll. If you're ready, we gon' start the show. Everybody in the world on the...
Now, listen. I think a lot of people have been reading into this album in some really creative ways. Some people say that it's a meta and highly conceptual commentary on his Slim Shady persona, while others seem to have only listened to the first half of the album and think that Eminem is taking shots at the Gen Z, snowflake, libtard, woke mob. And while I agree more with the former opinion, the concept doesn't make up for the overabundance of content, and also doesn't entirely deflect from him sounding like a grumpy old man trying to be edgy, because after the first half where Marshall postures himself as evil and Lucifer and the Antichrist, I'm kind of bored of his ramblings. Don't get me wrong, I am loving the ridiculousness of Slim running from the woke police. It's clear to me that Eminem is trying to be a little tongue-in-cheek here, and in the instance of the song Brand New Dance is effectively inhabiting the old Slim Shady character. But there's only so many Caitlyn Jenner jokes and ableist jokes and fat jokes he can make until I'm honestly bored silly. Guilty Conscience 2 is a fantastic analysis of the album as a whole, how Slim Shady is ultimately a part of Marshall's identity, and how he can't just symbolically kill off this persona. He needs to actually work on himself and stop making excuses for his own demons. Unfortunately, the second half isn't so interesting that it saves the album as a whole. The sentimental moments are sweet, but aesthetically feel really misplaced, and I'm not left with any great conclusion to the full experience. His flows and writing are definitely better than they've been, but honestly, Jid is the only one who comes away from this looking flawless, and you know, what's new there? I'd give it a 6 out of 10. So I've written a full review for this, and I almost don't even want to release it. It feels like a waste of time to complain about a project that's mediocre at best, and yet this album fascinates me with just how phoned in and derivative and meaningless pop music can be. Like, yeah, there's easy shots you can make as to how she tried to piggyback off of the hype of a project like Brat, but beyond that, why does any of this matter? Why do her fleeting and toxic relationships matter? Why does her partying in Dade County matter? Why does her advertisement for Chanel No. 5 matter? Why does this Drake song matter? It just feels empty and shallow and not particularly well produced or well written or well performed. Just feels kind of cheap for an artist with her level of popularity. So it's a mystery out of 10. Ooh, just gonna leave it there. Potential full review to follow. Okay, so Arca's like so super fucking cool, and these albums are so super fucking cool, so let me talk about them all real quick. Well, at least like the first 3. I haven't listened to the last 2 parts, to be completely honest, but whatever, we'll get there. Kick 1 is an exciting, ethereal, sometimes intoxicating, ambient electronic dance album. So often does this album shift from passages of gorgeous and swirling vocals and spacey synths to rather disorienting and intense dance beats. That isn't to deny the otherworldly quality of these fast-paced moments. They are equally as stunning as the more luxurious tracks tracks. Arca delivers an action-packed club experience just as easily as she breathes life into the spacious moments of ambiance. It's beautiful in a really unsettling and eerie way that I find simply captivating. 7.5 out of 10. Kick 2 takes a much more direct approach at a dance record, with a lot of experimental and alternative reggaeton, very familiar club beats, but with an extra element that feels strangely alien. Its more challenging moments manage to outstrange Kick 1 by completely abandoning an appeal to beauty and embracing a love for the unconventional. Luna Llena is also beautiful and has been in my rotation for a few weeks now. 7 out of 10. Kick 3 is wow. It packs a massive punch with just how much energy it has from front to back. In their previous installations, there seemed to be moments of pause between these aggressive passages, time to give Arca and the listener a moment to breathe. In Kick 3, it is truly all killer, no filler. Every track from Bruja to Joya, there is a fire in each song. It's beautiful and terrifying like a biblically accurate angel. Incendio feels particularly haunting, with Arca screaming the title, echoes and a scattered industrial beat consume her and the listener alike. Senorita is maybe the most accessible song on here, with a really grungy and kick-ass groove, spunky rap verses that just ooze sexiness galore. Electra Rex is splattered in clanging drums. It feels like it's impossible for me to wrap my head around the instrumental without hurting myself in the process. All in all, a fantastic and somewhat scary listening experience. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. 8.5 out of 10. Maybe the most aptly titled album this month, maybe even this year, as the only thing that I can think to describe this album is charming. With how soft her faint delivery is atop the most dainty 70s soft jazz rock instrumentals one could even think of, the use of horns and crystalline pianos and the occasional peppy little synth, Clairo makes one of the most fitting albums for an artist like her. Hearing this just felt so perfectly obvious, like, duh. Of course she would release this album. Now, I will say I don't know if the whole thing keeps my interest from front to back. I think the song Echo gets a little bit long-winded, and by the second half, I'm starting to doze just a little bit, as there aren't as many uppity moments like the playful piano flourishes on the song Thank You, the sincere desperation of Sexy to Someone, or the beautifully harmonized on Juna. But still, it's a deliciously sweet and soft and tender album from Clairo that goes well with a cup of coffee and a nice biscuit. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I really like this album. So much so, it's almost hard to put a finger on just what makes this album tingle for me. Is it the groovy and soulful melodies? Is it the infusion of funk and bubblegum and psych rock? Is it the delicious production design that evolves and expands from song to song, spanning multiple genres while effortlessly shining like the summer sun? Is it the magnificent vocal performance across the runtime? Is it the hooks? It's gotta be those infectious hooks, right? Right? Yeah, it's all of the above. But the infectious hooks are, something else. In many Anyways, this album feels like a natural follow-up to her big debut in 2021. It's got charisma and humor and all kinds of sassy sweetness, but there's a certain maturity on big ideas that I really love. Maybe it's the inclusion of a song like Motorcycle, which is a lovely laid-back piece of soul, reminiscent of something like Brittany Howard's I Don't from earlier this year, or a stronger reliance on her own vocal chops to deliver very stylized performances like the over-enunciated vowels on Kangaroo, or the stadium-sized performance on Wave, or the acoustic closer Just the Start, taking a page out of Adrienne Lanker's book of quaint sentimentality. There's just so much offered on here in terms of genre and style alone. It's impressive how confidently she tackles each musical idea while keeping it 110% Remi all the way. Love, love, love this album. Easily a 9 out of 10. The Pegster is back, and holy shit. What can't this man do? Somehow he managed to make a hip-hop album that is both so weird and yet so appealing, considering a lot of newcomers have apparently been picking this one up and quite enjoying it. Maybe it's because it's his most legitimately punk rock album yet, with wailing guitars, crashing and blown out drums, legit hissing and barking on the song Ex-Military. It's also potentially his most aesthetically beautiful album to date as well, with a stunning inclusion of strings and acoustic guitar that add an almost cinematic flair to a lot of these tracks. I've seen some people complain about the first half of the song Don't Put Anything on the Bible, that it doesn't add much to the full experience, but like, am I crazy, or is this one of my favorite moments on here? It's a shining moment of brevity and pause on a riveting album that adds to the full breadth of the project. Like, dude, this shit is beautiful. I remember he once said that Bjork and Arca were big influences on his work, and I think it really comes through here, with It's Dark and Hell is Hot sounding like a beat straight off of previously mentioned Kick 2, and the epic and mind-blowing finish to Don't Rely on Other Men, reminding me of the orchestral highs of Bjork's Vespertine. Who knew Logan Roy would sound so goddamn good on a JPEGMAFIA beat? Anyways, it's really nice to see so many people discover him through this album, as it's one of his most accessible albums to date, with a couple of great features, some beautiful and kick-ass production, and just further expansion from one of the greats of this generation. 8.5 out of 10. Oh yeah, I guess I did listen to this one, huh? Well anyways, for all the artists that are continuing the trend of making various forms of rage hip-hop, this one isn't half bad. Some of the beats are punchy, there's a lot of energy across the runtime that keeps it from being too much of a slog, and although I've only heard the whole thing once, as I pick through its songs, I'm not opposed to revisiting and reevaluating my thoughts. At the same time, I do wish that hip-hop artists would find literally any other trend than all trying to become the new Cardi. In all honesty, the worst crime that HARDSTONE Psycho commits is that it's kind of forgettable, and aside from some bouncy and bodacious moments, I can't recall a single chorus. But compared to the crimes that Don Toliver allegedly committed and featured artist Kodak Black actually committed, a boring album is the least of my concerns. I don't know, 5 out of 10, who gives a shit? Oh wow. I really didn't expect this one to become part of my weekly rotation, but here we are. QUEEF Jerky, composed of Dev Lemons and Nick Green, has been a pretty interesting case of what you might call experimental internet hip-hop pop music, as the pair are most well known by their respective YouTube channels. While their 2022 debut Queefomania presented a lot of very curious and unique musical ideas, it was also quite scattered in its presentation, lyrically very, shitposty, for lack of a better term, as if the name QUEEF Jerky doesn't indicate a certain lack of seriousness, but their production design and their multi-layered song structures all indicated a genuine love of creating alternative and weird sounds. On Absolute Madness, their artistic expression is only enhanced and focused into an explosive, brash, and occasionally crushing experience. Across the tracklist, we're presented with industrial and experimental hip-hop, elements of dream pop and electronic rock, and even screamo. Each song packs an entire experience that builds on the expansive and almost ethereal environment, each with really fun and intense groovy beats, and lyrics that while they don't say much thematically and are occasionally literal gibberish, I can't help but chuckle. I think Dev and Nick's chemistry are fantastic here, as Dev has an unhinged delivery on each track, going from some really slick choruses on songs like P Late, Liver, and The Gate, to the whiniest, ugliest, and screamiest delivery on songs like We Robbed the Bank and Don't Talk Back to Ladies. Nick, on the other hand, balances this with a delivery so dry, so pointed, so plain, it's kind of charming and comforting to listen to. The only complaint that I would have is it would be nice to see some lyrical cohesion. I understand stylistically it's their thing to rap a string of very goofy, very random bars that make no logistical sense, but with production this strong, I can forgive and still have a good time with the material. 8.5 out of 10.
And I BB my belt. I'm as poopy, but I never smoke.
Oh yeah, this one. It's kind of fun, I guess. Like, in all fairness to her, I think she's giving it a good college try, you know? The production is fine. The lyrics are maybe a little less fine. Her delivery, however, is a bit sharper, a bit more nuanced and cold than I had previously heard. Like, she's trying to make music that doesn't suck, and then she adds a poo-poo bar that nobody asked for, and it's like, wait, are you actually trying? I don't know, I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst thing out there, but it sure as hell isn't the most exciting thing either. With every poo-poo, pee-pee, booty hole, stinky bar, it feels like she wants to remain relevant in meme spaces while also being taken seriously as a legitimate force in the world of rap, and yet there's very little of an improvement from her previous work, and the music just isn't very compelling because of it. Like a 3.5 or something.
What's up? Tell me what the fuck you gotta say to me. Fuck you, I ain't here.
A banger. I don't know what else to say about this. It's a wall-to-wall, free-spirited Southern rap album, and if you ask me to tell you the distinction between Southern rap and other regional forms, woo boy, please don't do that. This album is kind of a return to form for Denzel, and also a confident display of showmanship with an array of exciting features. Denzel remains the centerpiece, of course, but the supporting cast does a lot to add breadth and charisma to the full experience. Like on Sked, with a nasty little verse from Kenny Mason and the iconic vocal dips from Project Pat. Cole Pimp with its deliciously smooth chorus from Ty Dolla $ign and a chilled and saucy verse from Juicy J. G's Up has one of the grisliest beats on here, with 2 Chainz delivering his playfully braggadocious flow that you come to expect. Hoodlums feels like a rap relay race from Play That Boy Zay to Denzel to A$AP Rocky, who just makes anything sound so seamlessly easy. Oh yeah, and Hot One with that fucking crazy Tia Corinne verse.
Ain't no beating me, I'm blessing life, money, dick, and dollar signs.
The only songs that didn't stun me were maybe Set It with Maxo Cream, which ultimately is a much more forgettable moment in the grand scheme of tracks, and Hit the Floor, which, while still good, does end up feeling like a pretty standard Ski Mask the Slump God song, although Denzel does breathe a lot of great life onto it. The whole album feels like a massive freestyle party of all of Denzel's favorite rappers, so it's really just fun to hear everyone collaborate and have a good time. The whole thing is packed with charisma and spunk and ferocity. The beats across the track list are groovy and punchy. Definitely not my favorite project from Denzel, but his consistency in hip-hop music remains. I would give this an 8 out of 10. So I went back and I listened to Sophie's single compilation Product, and it's pretty fucking fantastic. The eclectic synths, the rubbery bass lines, and mechanic and sometimes obnoxiously noisy instrumental flourishes all blend into an out-of-this-world club experience. While her concepts aren't yet as grand and explosive as they would be in Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides, it's still unequivocally Sophie and just as iconic and exciting to listen to 9 years later. Brava to a legend. So I guess I remember listening to this on a long car ride to Oregon, and yeah, all of the songs kind of blend together into one emo rap boy amalgamation. I remember it having some fun moments here and there, some heartfelt messages about posthumous releases from artists, their typical meditations on drugs and the toxins of the celebrity lifestyle. But don't ask me too many questions about this one. I wasn't as locked into this as it probably required, and I also wasn't interested enough to even remember I listened to it, so, like a 4 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10, I don't know, one of those, who cares? Well, those were my listening habits in July and August. Totally didn't leave anything out. Wouldn't dream of it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning, noon, and night. Bye. Bye. Wave goodbye. Bye. See you later. Bye.